everybody, welcome back to Meeting in the Flesh. I am post-recording this intro, vor warning, basically. I had no idea it was vor at the time that I was playing this. It wasn't until hours later that somebody pointed it out to me. Yes, I am that kind of dumb asexual. Sex doesn't make sense to me, I'm sorry. PG-13 descriptions of vor, okay? It's still PG-13. Sorry for the mess. Doing a puzzle. It's called an impossible puzzle. This is day 4, and I'm losing my mind. Alright, have fun. Enjoy the video. It's the last one in the series. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think, okay? Love you. Mwah! It's a lot of exposition on this video. I don't know. I guess I just feel like chatting with you guys. Wish you could chat back. I should live stream more. We'll see about it. Okay, let's get started. I ended up wandering the streets outside. Oh, did ya? Did ya there, bud? I need to think about Eastel's proposition, of course, but I feel like I need to calm myself first before I can address something so important, like getting eaten alive and absorbed into another person's body for the rest of your life. If you can fully trust him that he's not just eating you for shits and giggles, and that you will be, you know, like, a part of him. Other than, you know, stored in his fat cells. I wonder if he has fat. Anyways, do beetles get fat? Can beetles, like, make it a fat? I'm gonna look it up. So I walk. It feels good to walk. My body is accustomed to running my daily routine, or daily route, and I've been feeling antsier than I realized, and simply taking to the streets at a brisk walk helps me clear my head. That's good. My feet carry me down familiar paths, and I let my eyes wander over the various sights and sounds. This is all very, very familiar territory to me, but today, on the day of eclipse, everything is different, just a little. Just enough to make me appreciate the city all the more. I walk past a small crowd. They've gathered around one individual who stands tall, arms spread, speaking in a booming voice. Today is the day, friends. In just a few hours, the eclipse will happen. Good fortune will come to all of us. Sorry, I drank carbonated, and it made me burpy. Also, this has been my best friend for the last 2 days because I've been really stressed. My husband got it from work for being, like, top of his class or something like that. I don't know. But I love it. I call it Manono. Because when we were driving around for, like, 2 hours, I kept, like, pointing at him and going, Manono. So now it's my nyo-nyo. Because he asked me a question, I said, no! And I said, this is my no-no. Anyway, you're welcome for that very interesting story. I'm sure that was riveting. And so we depart now, off into the Bone Plains to hunt the giant earth whale. What? Earth whale? The crowd erupts into cheers. Several arms are raised high, hands clasped tight around spears. Is this what Bran does? This must be a hunting party. Everyone looks ecstatic, practically mad with excitement, and it's almost infectious. I find myself smiling as I walk by. They say the earth whale cannot be hunted, but we'll prove them wrong. We'll be remembered for years, for decades to come, and everyone will feast on earth whale tonight. To victory! To victory! The triumphant shouting and hollering is audible long after I turn the corner and off the street. The park is quieter. Not that it's totally free of the eclipse influence, of course. I pass by what looks like a couple embracing each other, whispering to each other and giggling. They seem very happy, and I give them a wide berth, trying to pass by quietly without interrupting anything. Aww, what a sweetheart. Elsewhere in the woods, I could hear boisterous conversations and shouts, but all sounds are muffled by the ambience of the woods, and I look for an isolated spot where I can sit and think. It doesn't take terribly long for me to find a small grove of trees a short distance off the main path, flanking an old fallen log. The finger pods on the ground squirm as I approach. What? No doubt, all alerted by the pad of my feet on the ground, but they settle down once I take a seat. What the fuck is a finger pod? Never mind. I was gonna reach back and grab that stuffed animal to cuddle, but it's fine. I have Monono. and it's too far away. All around me I could hear the chittering of insects and the distant caw of crows. The city's bustling comes from someplace even further away, an ever-present but now muted reminder of what's happening today. And, sinking into this relaxing atmosphere, I close my eyes. Phil, would you please consider bonding with me tonight during the eclipse? Sorry, I sat weird and it hurt my bum. It's hard to really imagine what this bonding would be like. Ooh, I bet it's horrifying. But it hadn't sounded like anything as simple as being eaten. I've heard of individuals like that, of course, who need to assimilate or absorb other people in order to survive or grow stronger. They often formed bonds with those who had naturally short lifespans or who were fated to die shortly after procreating. These relationships often seem short but passionate, no doubt amplified by the fact that one party would only live on in the other's memories. What you still described, however, sounded completely different. The bonding process would bring us closer than ever. Our minds would be brought together as one. We'd be able to share our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams with each other with absolute clarity. As an evolved being, we would always be at peace with each other. So would you be separate or not, is what I am not understanding. Is it a combination of both? That you're separate and together? Because sometimes it sounds like there would be two minds, but the way he also describes it sounds like we'll be eclipsed. They'll will be completely eclipsed. I don't know. We'll find out. We, not I, huh? I won't vanish. I'll still be there. I'll be with you still. I would lose something. A lot, possibly. Things could change drastically. But at the same time, I would gain something. A lifelong partner and trusted companion. And the city would benefit. Technically, it would be a small sacrifice for the sake of many. But still, would he still chastise me for hesitating over this decision? Absolutely not. Would he be upset with me if I said no? No, he'd just be a little disappointed, obviously. No, I don't think so. I end up quietly talking to myself as I sift through my thoughts. He still isn't like that. That's why he gave me this time to think to myself. And while his request had certainly caught me off guard, his honesty and sincerity had made it much easier to accept. With how passionate he'd seemed during that conversation, it was hard to imagine he wanted to bond with me purely for selfish reasons. From anyone else, I might have felt more uneasy being faced by this decision, but I felt like he still had wanted me to understand the full scope of the situation, and had wanted me to think it over on my own, so I wouldn't feel pressured. This is my decision to make. I think of the various people in my life, my work, the things I enjoy doing, the places, sights, and sounds I've experienced. I think of how my relationship with these precious things might change if I decide to bond with Eastal. And I think of Eastal. I think of long days spent with him, at his side, the two of us working together towards a common goal. I think of his calm smile, the gentle cadence of his voice, his calm and reassuring presence. I think of the time I've known him, of how much I've come to respect him and enjoy his company. I think about how it might be to grow even closer to him, to work towards protecting the city together with him. Absorbed in my thoughts, I barely noticed the time going by. It's the rustle of leaves that finally snaps me back to reality, and I sit up from where I've ended up slowly lying down on the log. The sudden movement is enough to set off the finger pots nearby, and they wriggle unhappily as I clamber to my feet. The rustling turns out to be a small child barging through the nearby bush. The child gives me a confused look as if demanding to know why I'm here, and I smile in return. Past the dense wall of foliage, I can hear an adult calling for the child. Maybe they're too big to get through the bush. Going around all the trees could take them a while. Sorry, there isn't much to do here. Let's go back, okay? It sounds like somebody's looking for you. Aw. The child pouts at first, making a face, but reluctantly holds out a hand. I take the offered hand, tugging the child along gently as I go back through the foliage, the way the child had come. As we emerge from the bush, brushing... Yes! Yes! Okay, maybe not the water. I'll do that now. Okay. As we emerge from... I don't know if you guys could hear it very well. Got lint on my lip. It says, have you drank... Oh, it was a cat hair. Not lint, and it got stuck. Very, very stuck. Anyway, it says, have you eaten recently? Have you drinking water recently? Set by my husband to remind me to eat and drink, but like, fuck him, you know? As we emerge from the bush, brushing leaves out of our eyes, the parents look over with a start. Sorry to surprise you. I thought it would be best not to let a little one wander around the woods. It only takes a small tug at the child's hand to get them to return to their parents' side, and I'm thanked profusely. The child is so excited for the eclipse, I'm told. They want to go exploring on this special day. Last time, they'd found an enormous cluster of bioflowers in the woods, but had never been able to find it again, and they were sure they'd find it again today. The eclipse really is a special day for everyone, isn't it? I give the parent and child a small wave as I leave, wishing the child good luck, but suggesting that maybe they explore together. Which brings up an interesting point in my mind. How does Yeastel's kind give birth if they absorb their partners? How do they make it a babies? I give the parent and child a small wave as I leave, wishing the child luck, but suggesting that maybe they explore together. The child, perhaps understandably, seems offended by this unwarranted advice given by a stranger, but the parent at least thanks me once more while seeing me off. It feels good being able to help people. It was a small gesture, one that cost me virtually nothing, but it was still helpful to someone, and that knowledge makes a warm feeling bloom in my chest. Thinking from this perspective, I can see why Yeastel values his job so much. It makes sense that he's so devoted to helping the city as much as he can. Perhaps it really is a goal worth any sacrifice. I think back to how exhausted he'd seemed when he emerged from the pod, practically dizzy from the long time spent looking over the city, but at the same time he'd seemed so proud and fond as he looked over the buildings from the rooftop, one hand touching against the spires along the vanes. I looked up to the rapidly darkening sky. In the far distance, I think I could make out the very tip of the spire, though it might just be my imagination, confusing a wayward tree branch for the spire's top. Either way, I should probably head back. I think it's time. The streets are busier than ever as I make my way towards the Overlook office. Most people are clustered together in groups, the biggest ones overseen by Overlook officers standing at ready in case there's any trouble. I hear talk of a romantic confession going well. Someone decides to travel out west into unknown territory and is recruiting mates to travel with them. Another person has decided today is the day they will begin the process of setting up their new business. The announcement is met with cheers. Overhead, the suns have drifted across the skies, seemingly on a collision course aimed at each other. The moon is a darker shape that crawls ever closer, as if intent on devouring the suns. My skin almost feels tingly from the energy in the air, and I find myself jogging, then running towards the Overlook office. I want to see Yeastel. I want to let him know of my decision. The Overlook office is even quieter than before when I enter. The lights are off and the desks are empty. The skies outside are rapidly darkening as the moon begins encroaching upon the sun's light, and the interior of the office feels almost desolate. It takes a moment for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, then I realize the pod in the corner, alone, is still occupied. Its eyes are all closed. Yeastel must be completely focused on the events happening outside. Unwilling to interrupt him, I walk over to the pod and sit beside it. It pulses gently, radiating an intense warmth. Like Yeastel himself, it's an incredibly comforting presence. Just being near it tends to put one at ease. Despite not having run my route today, I find myself starting to grow languid and sleepy. I guess even just walking around and thinking about things is more exhausting than one might imagine. It does feel like it's been a very long day after all. And if it's been a long day for me, it must have been exponentially more draining for Yeastel. I hope he'll be able to take another break soon. Phil? I bolt upright at the sound of Yeastel's voice. I hadn't meant to fall asleep after all. Yeastel is crouched beside me, a hand still hovering over where he had evidently been hesitating to shake my shoulder. He laughs as I look to him, rubbing a hand on my face. You caught me by surprise. I didn't realize you'd arrived. Were you waiting long? No, not at all. It's just the pod was really warm, and I guess I dozed off. I'm still trying to rub the sleep out of my eyes, and Yeastel smiles fondly. You should have gone home if you were so tired. It's been a busy day after all. Our work here is pretty much done. The eclipse will be soon, and the officers are have already been dispatched to all existing trouble sites, as well as standing by where we expect there might be any more trouble. Even the remaining workers here had small things they wanted to do before the eclipse happened, so I let them leave. So it took me a little longer to finish those last tasks. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's fine, you don't need to apologize. Sorry, I'm cracking my knuckles. Oh, crack my wrist. I feel so good. Let me know if any of you do this. So I popped my wrists. I already popped this one. But I popped them by pressing on these knuckles. Like that. Oh, it popped. I've already popped them today, so not very loudly. But it's probably really bad for your wrists. Maybe I shouldn't have shown anybody that. Anyway, I've also sprained both of my wrists, so maybe that's a thing. I don't know. That adds to my ability to pop them that way. I'm finally feeling alert once more, and I sit up straighter to peer at Eastel's face. He still looks tired, but a little more at peace. With all of the work done for this eclipse, he must be feeling tremendously relieved, not like earlier when he seemed so stressed. Besides, I couldn't leave. I need to answer your question. Right. For a brief moment, I see a trace of nervousness return to Eastel's features. His eyes widen marginally before settling back into his calm gaze. His lips parting to reveal a sliver of teeth. They press together thinly as he nods. Of course. There's the subtle scrape of his exoskeleton on the floor as he moves to sit on the floor facing me. The remaining light from outside filters through the window, highlighting his features from the side and glimmering off stray strands of his hair. His gaze feels more intense than ever as he looks at me, not demanding or prying, but patiently waiting for my answer. Despite his earlier signs of unease, his voice is quiet and calm as he says, Phil, I'm sorry, I'm really hot. I can't run the fan because it sounds stupid, but I have this little guy. I want to fan myself. Would you bond with me? His words have a beautiful clarity to them. They almost seem to echo in my chest, throbbing alongside my pulse. The calm cadence of his voice is betrayed by a focused way he regards me, as if I'm the only thing in his world at the moment. Aw, ain't that sweet? A warm flush of gratitude washes through my veins. Regardless of my answer, I'm incredibly grateful that he would risk such a thing of me. Oh, he would ask such a thing of me. Though I never aimed for it to be, nor expected to become someone so important to Eastel, I've always treasured our friendship. Knowing that he feels the same way, and perhaps to a greater magnitude than I can truly comprehend, is almost dizzying. And, feeling a heady rush of blood pour through me, I know there's only one way I can answer. I try to keep my voice as calm and clear as Eastel's has been, but as I give my answer, firstly, gonna save, because I kind of want to know what, like, the bad end is, but I'm gonna explore that later on my own time. I will. Hell yeah, baby. Hell yeah. I'm almost startled by the words that leave my mouth. They pour out before I can stop myself, but as I comprehend what I'm saying, I also understand that this is the right choice. The words come faster, spilling forth my true feelings. I want to bond with you, Eastel. I want to be together with you and help you. I see. Eastel blinks. Is he shocked? He blinks again before he seems to understand what I said and repeats, I see. You'll do it? It catches me completely. We got a hug! We love hugs! It catches me completely by surprise when he suddenly wraps his arms around me. Oops, sorry. And pulls me close. Very close. Closer than we've ever been. His body feels warmer than it looks, too, when his exoskeleton presses against my chest. Eastel's head bows, almost touching my shoulder. I can feel a deep exhale whispering against my throat. It's a little shaky. Oh, baby! So cute! Thank you so much, Phil. I can't put into words how much this means to me. His fingers tug into my robe, and he pulls me even tighter. Okay. I'm pretty sure I've never seen him this emotional. Nothing even close, and it truly drives home how important this is to him. I gently rub a hand at Eastel's back, or as much of his back as I can reach. My palm ends up awkwardly touching somewhere between his side and his shoulder blade, feeling the smooth expanse of his exoskeleton. You don't need to thank me for anything, Eastel. I was also really glad you asked me. I know it's an incredibly important decision for you, and if you feel safe asking that of me, then I'm really honored. Even the way he pulls me close, I can feel even closer if I close my eyes. I feel his breath against my skin, the wiry strands of his hair brushing against my cheek, the way his grasp pulls my cloak taut around me. I feel enveloped in his presence. It's very comforting. We've known each other for a while now, haven't we? We have. And I've always felt really comfortable around you. I've always thought it was a good thing you're the Overlook, because I know the city will always be safe in hands with you around. So, if I can help you and be with you, then I'm really glad. There's no one else I'd rather do something like that with. u4l doesn't respond, but his head nudges against my shoulder, almost like he's nuzzling me. Oh. He stays like that for a moment before finally pulling back a bit. One arm pulls away from around my shoulders to touch at my face, gently brushing some of the hair out of my face. You don't know how happy it makes me hearing you say that. He leans back in this time to touch foreheads with me. Stray strands of hair slide against each other with gentle metallic noises when he leans back once more. I can't wait to bond with you. The smile on his face is as gentle as ever, but there's a closeness and warmth to it that feels different. It feels like he's truly addressing me as u4l, as an... What? As an individual rather than the Overlook to the city. Oh, I see. Okay, I figured it out. Took me a second. I beam back at him. His gratitude and joy are infectious, and there's a hot, fluttering feeling in my stomach. I'm excited too. There's more I want to say. It feels like a dam has broken, and there's an endless number of things I want to say. But before either of us can speak, a loud murmur from outside catches our attention. It's only when we look up away from each other that we realize the skies outside have suddenly grown much darker, and they only continue to fade. The eclipse. It must be close. Vil, come on. There's a light tap of his feet against the floor as u4l gracefully gets to his feet, holding out a hand for me. When I take it, he pulls me up in one go. Let's go watch it. But shouldn't we bond first? u4l laughs. It's a very light and joyful sound. He continues to pull me along without hesitation, heading towards the door, and leads to the outside stairwell. Bonding takes a while, and I know superstition dictates it's best make our important decisions before the eclipse actually happens, but we already made our decision, didn't we? Technically speaking. And this will be our first time seeing an eclipse since we got to know each other. So I want a good view, something I'll remember. I guess I can't argue with that. And with that said, I pick up the pace. All the weariness I'd felt earlier seems to have melted away at some point. I feel like as long as u4l is pulling me along, we could go anywhere, and I wouldn't feel tired. Of course, we don't go far at all. We only hurry up the stairwell up onto the roof. The streets all around the Overlook office are cluttering with people. Most are gathered in small groups. Some are overseen by Overlook officers. The rooftops nearby are also dotted with people looking to get a good view. Others peer out of the windows or climb the numerous light poles. The electric energy in the air is practically palpable. u4l and I stand near the spire where the numerous eyeballs languidly sweep across the horizon. Is it also aware of what's about to happen, I wonder? And as if in response to my question, one of the eyeballs swivels straight upwards. Oh, wow. The suns seem so much brighter as they start to converge. Even with a dusting of clouds marring the skies, their lights feel warmer than usual. Perhaps it's the proximity between them that amplifies their light. Perhaps it's a trick of the eye because we're not used to seeing them traveling at such a direct collision course. Maybe it's just our excitement that heightens every emotion in the moment. Regardless, we watch the three suns creep closer and closer. I find myself holding my breath without even realizing it, and it's a cry from below that has me exhaling sharply. Someone on the ground below screams in what sounds like euphoric pleasure. Another person joins in soon afterwards, but most of us are quiet. Ah, my tummy's starting to hurt. I just ate recently, which I did something really stupid. Oh my god, it's 105 degrees out. What the fuck? It's fucking about to be September. Stop. But sometimes when I eat, I get really bad tummy aches. I had a salad. It was mostly just lettuce and croutons because I forgot to add the leftover chicken. My husband had mentioned putting leftover chicken in the salad tonight when he gets home, and I was like, ooh, that does sound good. And he was like, go eat. And I was like, okay, I will. And totally forgot to put the chicken in until I was like almost all the way done with my salad. I was like, No wonder why this was so fucking bland and boring. It was fucking lettuce and croutons mostly. Especially when the moon begins to cut through the sun's warm light. I feel a ripple travel through the crowd, through the very atmosphere when the moon's shadow first bites into the sun's glow. Seemingly uncaring of the effect it's having, the moon marches slowly onward, on a direct path to devour the entirety of the sun's glow. He still stands perfectly straight, and tall beside me, gaze directed upwards, but his hand reaches out as if searching for something. My hand. Ooh, look at it. As soon as I take his hand, his fingers squeeze tight around mine. It's happening. His voice is only a quiet murmur, but it still feels terribly loud. The only sounds I can hear now are muffled whispers and murmurs. The very air feels oppressive and heavy. It's weighing down upon our throats, and speaking at the moment feels taboo. So I only nod, squeezing tight at Yeastel's hand. We don't look at each other, but we're at least very aware of each other's presence as we continue to gaze upwards. The warm glow of the light above is at first a half circle, then a crescent, then only the slimmest sliver. Look at it, look how beautiful. And then there's only the ominous ring floating above us. A perfect, delicate circle of sunlight that majestically adorns the dark skies like an eye watching over us. The very air feels heavy in my lungs. My chest feels tight. The eclipse bears down on us an overwhelming presence greater than any of us will ever equal, and it makes my skin prickle. It feels physically impossible to tear my eyes away from the skies, even as the tiniest pinpricks of light begin to pierce past the moon's shadow. But a gentle tug at my hand pulls me away one step, then another. The suns have begun to fight their way out of the moon's shadow when I finally manage to look away. Come on. Oh, it's crunchy. Crunchy foot noises. Scared me. I thought it was skittering. Yeastel still speaks at a whisper, though. He glances back briefly to give me a smile as he continues to lead the way. We go back down the stairwell, of course, through the door that leads into the office. The streets below seem to have also broken free of the eclipse's allure by now. I start to hear murmurs and shouts drifting up towards us as people rejoice in what they had the chance to witness. An overjoyed scream is the last thing I hear clearly before I shut the office door. The office is instantly quieter, the noise from the streets seeming to come from a million miles away. There's just the sound of our footsteps as we walk across the office and towards the pod. Is it okay for me to come in? Yeastel had stepped into the pod without any hesitation, but I can't help hesitating. The pod is the Overlook's domain, after all. I'm not sure if the pod can even hold the both of us, but Yeastel just laughs, gently, not mocking. He keeps a steady grip on my hand as he ushers me to step in beside him. Of course, anyone that I acknowledge is allowed to enter the pod, and besides, it will have to learn to recognize us once we're bonded. So doing the bonding process within the pod is a useful method. My predecessor highly recommended it. I see. Even with that encouragement, entering the pod is a strange feeling. The fluid inside is lukewarm and thick, but the surface parts easily as I begin to dip my foot in. My legs glide in with practically no resistance, and when I stand with both feet in the pod, the fluids close up around the circumference of my limbs. Here, come closer. Yeastel's bony arms rest over my shoulders, easing me closer. Fluid sloshes around our calves, lapping at the open edges of the pod, but never spilling over. Should I take off my things? Yes, if you don't mind. A small nod as I begin to undo the fastenings of my cloak, letting it drop to the floor. And as soon as I'm bare, Yeastel suddenly wraps his arms around me, pulling me into a tight embrace. When he drops his weight down, I'm brought down along with him, and together we sink into the welcoming pool of fluid. Oh! That's what Vil looks like! Okay, this is the first time we ever got to see Vil. Neat! The roof of the pod snaps shut with a loud squelch, sprinkling us with flecks of fluid, but the interior of the pod is still somehow lit with a warm glow. Oh, cool. Submerged in the pool of fluids, I worry for a moment how I meant to breathe, but I'm given my answer soon enough when I feel the fluids begin to subside as they're being sucked back into the pod. My head breaks through the surface and I gasp. Inside the pod, the air tastes warm and with a deep sweetness to it, not like sugar, but like meat. I'm still inhaling deeply, trying to grow used to the sensation when Yeastel's head also breaches the surface. The level of fluids continues to shrink down, sinking below our shoulders. Don't worry, the pod will adjust to us. It'll make sure you're comfortable. That's nice of the pod. I feel so awkward right now. As if to prove his point, he sits back, tugging me along so I'm seated in his lap. The fluids slosh around him, and the plush wall of flesh behind him conforms to the shape of his back. Sitting this close to him, I can feel his exoskeleton start to grow warmer. Not just his exoskeleton, but the very air feels hotter and wetter and sweeter. It feels like I'll melt if I stay in here too long, like I'll become part of the pod. It's making my body feel oddly sensitive, and I shiver as Yeastel's hand traces around my side, then rests against my back. His fingertips are two hot points of contact against my skin that demand a great deal of my attention. But far more pressing is when he brings his face close to mine. Okay, there, figured it out. Is your eyeball melting off your face, Phil? You're cute, but that eyeball, it looks like it's falling off. Phil. His voice echoes in this tight space, sending the tiniest ripples running across the surface of the fluid pool. The level of fluids has sunk further down, lapping around our sides, warm and comforting, without being imposing. Yeastel was certainly right in saying that the pod would make me comfortable. I feel utterly at home here in Yeastel's warm embrace, feeling his breath brushing over my shoulder. I close my eyes, meaning to nod but feeling too pleasantly absent to do so. Yeastel seems to get my meaning, regardless, because he leans in closer. His words are spoken in a low whisper, each syllable melting into my thoughts when he asks, "Can we begin?" Almost before the question drops, I know my answer. Yes. I hear the slick sound of something wet against something hard, like blood sluicing? I've seen the word before, I just don't know how to say it. Off bone. And I very quickly realize it was the sound of Yeastel's mandibles spreading wide open. For a moment I catch a glimpse of gleaming white teeth at the periphery of my vision. Then they sink into my shoulder. Like the way my feet had eased into the pod's fluid without any resistance, Yeastel's teeth slide into my flesh smoothly, with no pause or hesitation, so swiftly that I barely feel the initial puncture. Only when they lodge deep in my flesh, I feel a prickle of pain sparkling through my nerves. But even then it feels hot and airy. It's not unpleasant at all. My flesh parts easily, as if the pod's fluids have melted away any resistance, partially liquefying it. Then I feel a trickle of hot fluids from the bite mark trace down my chest, pattering into the pool around us. It leaves behind a trace of flickering warmth that lingers on my skin. I want to feel more of it, that warmth. My hands wander, practically on their own, starting from Yeastel's side and traveling upward. My fingertips touch against Yeastel's body, filling out details I'd seen before, but had never thought I'd get to touch. The gentle inward curve of his exoskeleton above his hips, the softer connective portion where his arm meets his shoulder, the partition line near his throat. Just below his throat, his exoskeleton opens up to a window where his inner flesh peeks past. It's shiny in the warm, hot air of the pod, and I touch at the edge of it as gently as possible. It still earns a deep shiver, and Yeastel's mandibles snap shut quickly enough that his teeth rake thin lines across my throat. The sensation sends a heady rush of blood through my veins, and I exhale sharply. My voice escapes with that hot lungful of air. It's a soft noise, but a needy one that echoes in the tight confines of the pod. Yeastel says nothing, responding with a low purr from the back of his throat. It makes his teeth vibrate ever so slightly as he takes small bites into the junction of my throat and my shoulder. It's so scary. Everything is starting to meld together, the sounds of the fluid lapping around us, the feel of teeth easing into my arm, the pressure of Yeastel's hand dragging down my back and around below my ribcage. His fingers squeeze tighter, pressing against then into my sides. My body gives easily to his every touch, made pliable and sensitive, eager by the sweet air and lap of fluids. It doesn't take much encouragement from him for me to raise myself up on my knees. It lets me lean in closer to him, pressing chest against chest. That tiny window of his inner flesh feels incredibly hot against my skin, enough to earn a low groan. I want to be closer to him, closer than anything else. So close we could become one. I want to bond with him. And my body responds easily to these desires, slowly succumbing to Yeastel's every touch. As if guided by magnetism, he finds the spots where my body is most prepared to take him. Teeth glide into my throat with the ease of a knife through water, his hands dragging hot lines of sensation across my skin and making a heavy sensation settle in my gut. He shifts beneath me, then pulls me closer until there's practically no boundary between us. My hands grip tight around Yeastel's shoulder, pulling him closer. I immediately feel like our bodies have become one. Like a ribcage without a spine, my body would collapse in on itself without Yeastel's form to hold me together. His exoskeleton is hot and slick to touch. The pod's fluids have soaked through his hair, and the strands practically welcome the tangle of my fingers through them, just like my body continues to welcome each and every breach. Faintly, I hear Yeastel murmuring my name. His eyes are closed, his movements gentle as he nuzzles against my ribcage. His teeth gently ease apart my skin, and I shiver as his teeth scrape across bone. I can't feel my legs anymore, like they're not there anymore, replaced by a warm sludge. That hot, heavy feeling in my gut keeps expanding, spiking hardest when I move to pull him closer to me. Through the haze of light and sparks that are starting to color my vision, I feel my fingertips starting to melt, smearing against Yeastel's... Your hands are melting? Smearing against Yeastel's shoulders. It's good because I can sink even deeper into Yeastel's lap this way, feeling him sink deeper, deeper, deeper into my innermost recesses. My heart's almost beating onto my chest, and I grasp when Yeastel murmurs my name right against it. Your heart? He's already at your heart? Maybe you are a ribcage without a spine. You could be. That would make sense. You can't feel your legs. You're turning to mush. He's eating Vil a lot faster than I expected. I say his name back, but I'm not sure if my voice can leave my throat anymore. It's starting to become a bit too much for me. The heats continue to rise, but not in an unpleasant fashion. It's not like the sweltering heat of the summer, or the stifle of a hot blanket. This is the heat of a warm embrace that one sinks into endlessly without escape. When I close my eyes, I feel every little movement against me. The drag of Yeastel's hand up my back, and the way it presses his arm against my spine. The way each hot breath flits past my bones and through my ribcage. The bob of his throat when he swallows, and the faint vibrations when he murmurs my name. The hot trickle of the pod's fluid is everywhere now, covering me like a silk cobweb. I've never felt more comfortable. I know for sure that I made the correct choice in bonding with Yeastel. How could I ever feel so at peace? When I close my eyes, I hear a single heartbeat pulsing between us. Yeastel is calling my name, and I smile. I am very glad it's the last thing I hear, as my thoughts grow fuzzy and I'm dark. I think I misread that, but it's fine. It's a full day before I awaken. I'm aware of it immediately. There's no transition, no period where I'm haze lily emerging from sleep. Just the overwhelming darkness of sleep, followed by the instantaneous clarity. Because Yeastel was awake first. And as soon as I'm awake, we share everything we know. We are one and the same, so I immediately understand that the bonding process was a success and that he's awakened first, but had been reluctant to awaken me because he was sure I was exhausted, and he also immediately understood that I was grateful for his consideration. Even bonded with me, he is kind and considerate, and I'm immensely glad for it. Aw, okay. Does Yeastel have more limbs now? Wait, no, it is a combination of the two of them, isn't it? It takes me no time at all to adjust to being bonded. Yeastel had been worried the change would be too drastic. Perhaps I simply adapt quickly. So I find it strange at first occupying a form so different from mine. Our evolved body is closer to Yeastel's old form than mine, and at first I'm confused by the willowy fingers and delicate limbs. They're so unlike my own robust limbs, hardy from long days spent running. But at the same time, it's nice getting to know all these intimate details of Yeastel's body for the first time. Nobody will ever know him better than I do, and nobody will ever know me better than he does, now that we're bonded. He also immediately understands what my body had been like and commiserates with my difficulties. Then he helps me adjust, until I'm comfortable once more. It's a shock to people who knew me before, of course. Our relationships do change drastically in a way that can't be reversed. As the Overlook, I can't maintain the same position I did before, delivering salt. It's not a bad change either, just different. I can still speak to them, ask how they're doing, inquire about their daily lives. I still cherish each and every one of them, and the same as before. Perhaps even more now that we want to protect the city together. As the Overlook, we think so dearly of the city and do everything we can to nourish it. The city responds in kind by flourishing more than ever. What makes us happy is neither the bustling city nor the peaceful streets, nor the friendliness of other people, however. We adore those things, of course. We're deeply grateful for them. But what puts us most at peace is the knowledge that we have each other. Sorry, I feel like I got a burp. I'm gonna drink some water. It's been a minute. He still is me and I am him. We are always aware of each other, together but separate, at complete peace with each other. And each time we stand on the rooftop of the office and look out over the city, we remember the night of the eclipse, the night that brought us together. The eclipse was only the first of many to come, but it will always be one most meaningful to us. End. Okay, so 5 videos it is. This one ran a little bit long anyways, so that's good. That's good. That's like the perfect amount. I like that amount. Oh, but I'm hot as butt. I was gonna say ball sack, but then I was like, no, that's weird. Don't say ball sack on YouTube. And now I'm saying ball sack more than I would have if I just said it's hot as ball sack. Anyway. That was really interesting. I was really nervous about what would happen when we got absorbed. But it was fine. It was very interesting. I liked it. I thought it was really unique for sure. I don't know why I like the weird combination of horror and romance. Like, it's not usually a combination you would think about, but it's pretty good if you ask me. I like it a lot. You wanna know what? We should play Doki Doki Literature Club sometime. I haven't gotten any spoilers. And I've never played it. Never watched anyone play it. Because I want to play it someday. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I wonder if this dev has any other games out yet. I will check, and maybe we'll play that too. I don't know. Anyway, the first link in the description will take you to the game page, which you can find the creator there, and maybe look into it yourself if you're interested. Also, you know, there's 2 other romance options, plus 18 plus content. So, why not download a free visual novel? It's on itch.io. It's easy. It's super easy. It's super free. It doesn't take a lot of space. You could play it on your laptop. You could play it on your shitty old laptop from 2005. You totally can. Anyway. Sorry, was that mean? I don't know, maybe it's the makeup today. It makes me feel cool and aggressive. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next one, alright? Take care of yourselves. Bye!